watching Numbskull Music, and today I'm going to try to make the case, at least begin to make the case, that the 90s was the best era for music, period. Now I'm going to focus mainly on metal, on rock, hard rock, alternative metal, all that kind of stuff. Sometime down the road, I will touch on other genres in the 90s and how big they were and how impactful they were. And this is going to be a multiple part series, and the first part of this is going to be focused on the alternative scene in the 90s, which was the biggest scene and probably the biggest musical explosion ever in rock history. I know that's saying a lot, but I think it's true because part of the alternative scene, of course, was the grunge era. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to list off all of these bands, and I'm not going to include Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. Those are the big four of the grunge, or the big four of alternative. But I'm going to say, okay, who's the next big four? And then the next, then the next, then the next. And you're going to see, my God, how freaking massive this genre was. So let's get going with it. So we're going to start with the next of the big four: Stone Temple Pilots, Smashing Pumpkins, Foo Fighters, and yes, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I know they officially started in the 80s, early 80s, but they didn't get their first hit to the 90s. That's when they blew up. So they're a 90s band, deal with it. The next four, you got to start with Green Day. I'm not a big fan, but damn, they were huge. They're still huge. Bush. I know you're saying, Bush? Well, damn, they had like 4 or 5 hit albums in the 90s. Tons of hit songs. I have to include them. Jane's Addiction, of course, and Weezer. The next four, going Oasis, Radiohead, Live, and Creed. I know, right? Everyone freaking hates Creed, but there's no doubt how freaking huge they were in the late 90s going into the 2000s. Massive freaking band. And that's a hell. I mean, come on, man. That's like, what is that? The 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th bands after the big four. So now we've had, 4 sets of big four bands. And they're massive freaking bands. Multi-platinum for days. But we're not done. So this is the 4th row down. The Cranberries, 311, Mudhoney, Beck. I mean, the 90s just don't stop because we're not done yet. Oh, I got a whole lot more. I'm screwing up a little bit. I'm trying to keep these guys in some kind of order, like the biggest bands on down. It's just hard to do. On this level, I got Counting Crows, I got Garbage, Alanis Morissette, and Lenny Kravitz. And yes, Alanis Morissette was absolutely an alternative artist back in the 90s. Maybe she went soft rock or whatever. But there's no doubt all 4 of those belong on this list. The next line down, Cake, no doubt, Sugar Ray. I don't laugh. But Sugar Ray was a big freaking deal once upon a time in the mid to late 90s. And Collective Soul, who had hits upon hits upon hits. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 group of 4s down, and we're still hitting big time bands. And we're freaking not even done yet. Now we're starting to get closer to done. You got Blues Traveler, you got Hole, Everclear, Candlebox, and I should have mentioned, but I'm not a professional video freaking maker. The only bands I'm counting, these can't be one-hit wonders. You can have a one album wonder, with multiple hits on an album, but people who made a huge impact in the 90s, and clearly all of these bands count. In this next row, I mean, I think most of these bands we probably consider 2000s bands, but think about it. Blink-182's big classic freaking album hit in 99. Fuel's big, huge album, or their debut album with monster hits was like 98. So was Incubus's. And Our Lady Peace they dropped some of their first hits around 96. So, do I count them as 90s bands? I think so. Now, their success, of course, continued, and they were very, very popular bands in the 2000s. But they started their popularity in the 90s with monster hits. And just for shits and giggles, I'm going to throw in Tonic. They had the one huge song, but they had several minor hits on several different albums. So I got to put them in there. Toadies, Rubberneck was a huge freaking album. They had like freaking 5 hits on the damn thing. Everyone only remembers like 1 or 2 songs, but trust me, go through that album, all that stuff, like 5 or 6 albums, or 5 or 6 of those songs ended up on the radio. Monster album. And if you take a look at the whole thing, what is this, like 30, 34, 36? That's 34 monstrous freaking bands. 34, I mean, different sizes. Obviously, Foo Fighters is bigger than Mudhoney. STP was bigger than Sugar Ray. But these were huge acts back then. Multiple songs all over the radio that everybody heard all the freaking time. There's not a lot of eras like this. And that's not even including Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Alice in Chains, like I said before. And that's not including any of the alternative metal. That's not including stuff that Metallica was putting out or Megadeth was putting out at the time, which was monster. So just based on that, I mean, I don't think there was that many hair bands in the 80s who were that big. 32 of them? I dare you to come up with 32 big hair bands of the 80s who had multiple huge hits. Good luck. I don't see it. I don't. Maybe you could put together 32 bands of the 70s that were really big, but you're going to find most of those were one-hit wonders. Same thing in the 60s. You're not going to find, and definitely in the 2000s and to modern day, you ain't going to find nothing like that. And by the way, this is just the first example of the dominance and the greatness of the 90s era. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with more examples why the 90s was the greatest era of music ever. Bye.